Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show.
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which have been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
Boring.
A weekly podcast about sports since 2011.
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
With a focus on football.
36-yard line of Philly, shotgun snap to Hurts, dropping back, only one person rushing, Hurts looking, standing still, winding up, long pass, it lands at the 20, no one is there, zeros on the clock, it's over, the Chiefs have won, Super Bowl 57 on a game-winning field goal, trailing at 10. At the halftime stop, 24-14, they go on to win 38-35. What a game.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and we are here with episode 381 of the podcast. And no, I am not alone. I am here with me, or as always, joining me is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
So we are continuing our play through NCAA 14 Dynasty mode. Year 4, our FAU Owls. We are undefeated, playing in our conference championship game. We're going to kick that off against Florida International. Right now, I'm up first, and then Justin's going to get us started with our topic tonight, which is the continuation of our 2023 NFL preview. This is part 2, Justin, and we're doing the South Divisions, and as always, we're starting in the NFC.
Okay, yeah, so we're going to start in the NFC South. Was an absolute dumpster fire last year. There were no good teams in that division last year.
Zero.
The Bucs won the division and made the playoffs, but were infinitely worse than they had been
So
the
bad.
year before.
Honestly, I thought it would be more fun if of them in contention?
The Panthers, I think the Panthers, I don't know if they were in contention through week 18, but they were into week 17 because of the way they had come on strong for the guy they did not give the job to. And again, that's not a statement against Frank Reich. I like Frank Reich. But
Kind of felt like Wilkes had earned it.
yeah.
But you're right. I'm a fan of Frank Reich, so.
Right. So that's a different issue. But all of that aside, yeah, in terms of the second half of the season, I kept waiting for the Bucs to get hot the last couple weeks, or make a run in the playoffs, because they'd kind of shown the year before that the regular season doesn't matter. If they hit the playoffs, strong, they're a contender. Yeah, none of that happened. So it was awful. And you have some teams that were already in their rebuild, and you have some other teams that are starting their rebuild now, and you have a team in the Saints that I'd say is still trying to cling to maybe a remodel instead of a rebuild. Instead of, they're trying to swap out individual pieces instead of tear it down to the ground. So where this division goes, I don't know. I feel like it's fairly wide open. And while we have had very similar, if not the same, I'm already forgetting, runs through this first couple divisions, I feel like we could be in for some differences tonight, just because I feel like the NFC South is as wide open as they're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, if you told me any of those 4 teams are going to win it this year, I would say, okay. I just feel like it's completely up in the air. Anyone can win this division. I'm going to cut in here in our discussion. Well, first off, I was incorrect. We are not playing Florida International. We are playing UTEP. Not that really matters to anyone listening to this as an audio podcast, but we are playing against UTEP in our conference championship game. It's a number 1 versus number 24. Back to the topic at hand, the NFL talk. My dad did message me. He got his AFC and NFC South picks in, so I'll go over his NFC South here before we touch on our 4-3-2-1. He's going 1-2-3-4. So his top team, the one he thinks will win the NFC South in 2023, will be the Carolina Panthers. So he's riding with Coach Frank Reich and the new rookie quarterback, Bryce Young, because I assume he's going to get the job. I don't see why he wouldn't. Then he has New Orleans second, followed by Atlanta, and he has Tampa Bay, just 2 years removed from a Super Bowl championship, being the worst team in the NFC South. And like I just said, that very easily could play out. You could put these teams in any order, and I think you could say it's likely. So he went Carolina 1, New Orleans 2, Atlanta 3, Tampa Bay 4. Yeah, the NFC South was not great last year. Like you said, there were teams that were already starting a rebuild in Carolina. New Orleans was sort of treading water. Tampa Bay was trying to eke out one last run, but it just didn't go their way. And Atlanta had already quasi moved on. They were in the middle of a rebuild, but things didn't look awful. They had a really good team, or at least a better team than I think many expected them to have. I think entering the year, people thought they were a 2-3 win team, I think.
Right.
And they proved everyone wrong. Finishing, were they 7-10? Is that what they were last year?
I think they were, yeah.
Yeah, so not a bad year from the Falcons at all, and they went through Marcus Mariota, but ended up then playing Desmond Ridder. It looks like, based on no movement elsewhere, that he's going to get the job this year and see if he can improve and be the new franchise guy. Their former franchise guy, Matt Ryan, moved on to Indianapolis in a trade last year. He was released and is no longer in the NFL. He took a media spot, but he said it was not a retirement, which I think more has to do with, I guess, availability of the money that may be owed to him, or even not giving up like health and the benefits package to say that, hey, I'm not retired, I'm just working here until a team has a need, which could very well happen. But getting back to it, Justin, since you're up there, I'll start with. You didn't give your number 4, right?
No, I didn't yet.
Okay, well then I will jump in and give you mine. Oh boy, this is tough.
Yeah.
This is really tough because, well, for all the reasons we just said, any of these 4 teams can win it. Now, I think I'm going to go, honestly, I'm going to go with my dad. I'm going to say Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is my number 4. Because it's either going to be Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield. And I don't think either instills much confidence. They're having an issue with one of their better defensive players contract-wise. They've lost a bunch of studs. I know they have some decent offensive weapons, but if the quarterback can't get it done, you're not going to be any good. And honestly, looking at the other quarterbacks in the league, I think Tampa Bay could be in the worst position. Maybe Baker Mayfield can be a top 50, top 15 guy, like top half of the league, but I feel like that's his ceiling. And when that's your ceiling and he doesn't always hit it, you're not going to get a lot done. Desmond Ridder is still kind of an unknown. Derek Carr's now in New Orleans, and Carolina has Bryce Young, a complete unknown, but has a lot of talent, obviously. He was the number 1 pick in the draft. So I go with my dad. I think Tampa Bay might be the worst team in that division. I think Tampa Bay is going to regress. Were they 9-8 or 8-9 last year?
I thought they were 8-9.
Okay. One of those, right around 500, but I think they drop off. I think they could go 6-11.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. And think about this: they won the division last year, but they were bad, right? So when I'm running through their schedule, and I look at it, they start with the Vikings on the road. That's a tough one. They play the Bears. I know we haven't gotten to the Bears, but I feel like the Bears were trending in the right direction where the Buccaneers
Right, I think the second
aren't.
half of the season for the Bears last year was so much better.
They play the Eagles in week 3. They play the Saints in week 4. Okay, who knows there. But then they play the Lions. Then they play the Falcons.
The Saints were beating the Bucs when Brady and the Bucs were at their peak.
So basically, like, you look at like games where they may where it might be a toss-up are basically their division games, because then after that second division game, they go and they're at the Bills. Then they have the Texans, so a non-division game that could be a toss-up, and the Titans. So they do get the AFC South, so that does help
helps
them a little
bit because those
'Cause-
teams aren't much better.
Right, because then they play the Colts.
Other than maybe the
But then
Jags.
they have the Panthers, Falcons, but then they play the Packers, who huge question mark. But then they end with the Jags, Saints, and Panthers. So the first half of their schedule is bad for them. The second half of their schedule is potentially like some room to get some wins, but I don't think they're looking very hot. I basically would have to look. All right, the Panthers finished stronger last year with some of their younger guys starting to step up. You have a complete rebuild there. They're going to need Bryce Young to be number 1 overall caliber quarterback. And then, yeah, I mean, they've got what could be some weapons for him. More than at least what some number 1 overall quarterbacks have had the last few times, at least when they first started. So we'll have to see. But I'm just trying to think. Atlanta, I don't feel like Atlanta's as bad as...
I feel like Atlanta overachieved. I don't want to say overachieved because then it means like I think they're going to drop back down.
Right.
I think they could be. I feel like they could be just as good, if not even maybe a little better this year.
I could see the Bucks, and you know what else? And this will sound crazy, but I feel like the Bucks are going to lose, and they're going to lose a lot, and everybody will be like, "See, another team is terrible." Once Tom Brady left, they were terrible last year when Tom Brady was there.
Yeah, they were very good with him. So.
But yeah, that's a storyline we're going to hear. So. For that reason, I'm going to agree. I'm going to go Bucks as the second worst team.
All right, so my dad...
Or sorry, the worst team. I don't know.
My dad, you and me are all on the same page to start Tampa Bay at number 4.
Yep.
Why don't you go with your number 3 next?
Okay, so for my number 3, my number 3, I'm going to go with the Saints.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I'm going to say we are not in agreement on this. Then.
Okay. This is going out on a limb. So I feel like they think Derek Carr's the answer. I feel like there's issues there. I can't even think. Who's the big receiver there?
Michael Thomas?
Yeah, Michael Thomas has he's not played a lot of the last 2 years, mostly because of him either sitting out or injuries or sitting out and injuries, and it's just been weird, right? I feel like it's hard for when guys are in that situation to then all of a sudden just be like, oh yeah, and come back and still be one of the best players in the league. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I feel like the defense was still fine last year. I just don't know that this team is very different than the Raiders team that Derek Carr just left. Does that make sense? They've got some pieces.
I don't know that I disagree with you on that.
Now to be fair, I think Derek Carr's an upgrade to anything that the Saints had at quarterback last year. I'm not a Derek Carr hater. Derek Carr was not the problem in my mind in Oakland. But I feel like I'm not sure he's good enough to to be the answer in New Orleans. Does that make sense? I think he is a quarterback that's good enough in the right situation. I am not confident enough that New Orleans is quote unquote the right situation.
I think it, and maybe this is fool's gold, matching their helmets. I just wonder or think they kind of, I don't want to say they didn't go all in last year, but I feel like they thought they were better than others thought. And we kind of talked about this on our preview, and I heard Ross Tucker say it too, that the Saints were making trades. This was in the draft a year ago with the Eagles.
Right.
That the Saints thought they were close, that they could compete for a division title and then a conference championship in the Super Bowl. And I think most people were like, no way. And Ross backtracked a little, and because I thought he was going to have him at 5, 6, 7 wins. He ended up thinking that they were about a 9-win team going into last season. And I I don't know. I feel like they sort of performed as what everyone kind of expected them to last year. But they thought they were like a 10-11 win team, I think. But what did they end up last year? They were 7-10. So I feel like they were right where we thought. So the Buccaneers were 8-9. You were right. They were under 500. 8-9 won the division at 8-9. But then the Panthers, Saints, and Falcons all tied at 7-10. So three-way tie for second and last at 7-10. Each one game back from the division. So you look at the moves the teams have made, and while Tom Brady wasn't Tom Brady this past year, I still think he's better than everything that's in the division now. So losing him is a huge issue for the Buccaneers. So they were 8-9. I think they're dropping to 5-12, 6-11. We both had them in fourth. So did my dad. Here we are in third place. You're going with the Saints. That's where they were last year at 7-10. They added Derek Carr. They got rid of Jameis Winston. Or no, they didn't get rid of Jameis Winston. He's just not the starter.
Back.
He's back, which I think surprised everyone that he came back, or that they retained him as essentially a backup. Oh, I thought he was going to catch that on the ricochet. But all this to say, I don't have the Saints in third. You do. What do you think their record's going to be?
I put them at like 8 wins. I'll put them at 8 wins.
So you think a slight improvement, 8-9?
Yeah.
Okay. So a little bit better than last year, but still down in third place for the Saints. That's Justin. Again, and my dad had the Falcons in third place. I am going to go... Man, this is tough. You know what? I think I'm going to go Carolina in third.
Okay.
They were 7-10 last year. They added Bryce Young. They had a quarterback carousel of veterans in and out. You know, they had Sam Darnold. They had Baker Mayfield. They had PJ Walker, right?
Yeah.
They played well for Steve Wilkes. You know, the second half of the season, they did not retain him. He moved on. They brought in Frank Reich. They drafted Bryce Young. They traded away DJ Moore in the trade with the Bears to move up for that first pick. I think they're a good team. I don't. Honestly, they might be better than 7-10 this year. But something is just telling me that they're not quite ready. But again, it would not shock me at all if this team went like 10-7 and won the division.
Right.
Not a surprise at all. I am just going to say I think Carolina is the third best team, and it may be via tiebreaker. I'm going to put them again at 7-10 in third place, a game or two ahead of Tampa Bay. I don't think that would be a bad showing, even though it would be an identical record. If you have a rookie quarterback that wins 7 games, that's pretty darn good. I don't think the talent in Carolina is awful. I don't think it'll be one of the worst teams in the league. They weren't this past year. I think it'll take a little bit of time to get the offense to gel. Bryce Young will have his hiccups, as all rookie quarterbacks tend to do. But in the end of the day, I think they're set up well for the future, and I think it's the start of a new era. And I think it'll be off to a good start. I just don't see them being a playoff team this season. So that'll take us to second place then. I'll go here, Justin, and say my second place team is going to be the Atlanta Falcons. I'm one of the Falcons at second place. I think they're going to be a little bit better than 7-10. I have them at 8-9. I was a fan of Desmond Ridder coming out of Cincinnati last year. I think getting an entire offseason and a training camp and everything, I wouldn't be surprised if he shows improvement. And with him and Mariota last year, they were 7-10. And I think Desmond Ridder leading the group, and with the acquisitions they made, I know people were kind of in shock that the Bijan Robinson went to them so early, but he could be used in a hybrid Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, kind of like a jack of all trades, a master at running back, slot, wide receiver. They can use him everywhere. If they use him correctly, I think it'll really help them. Think about the offense that they have there.
They have
Kyle Pitts.
They have arguably what people would have considered
Drake London,
some of the, in terms of pure offensive weapons, maybe 3 out of the top 5 guys in the last 2 drafts that have gone. Now, they haven't lived up to that hype, and Drake London would be, a question mark there. But first-year receiver with a whole new like
System, multiple
system
quarterbacks.
and quarterbacks. Yeah. I can see that. Like I think. Yeah, I'm having a tough time with where I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna go with the Panthers in second place. You mentioned all those things with the Panthers, and I'm kind of on board with that. I think they're still, I think they're going to be right around 8 wins too. So I kind of have the win total the same as the Saints, but I think the Panthers are trending in the right direction, whereas the Saints are not. And so without going into a week by week schedule and figuring out tiebreakers, I'm going to give that tiebreaker to the Panthers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I like
for our purposes, I'm going to go with the how does it feel? And I feel like 8 wins for the Panthers feels a lot different, even though I know that's only a minor improvement over last year, than the 8 wins would feel for the Saints. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like 8 wins for the Saints still leaves you in a spot where it's like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Whereas 8 wins for the Panthers would be like, okay, solid first year under the new coach, you know, like, and rookie quarterback. And then they'd hope to be making the next jump to over 500 and fighting for a playoff spot the next year, you know? So I that's kind of where I'm at with that. I'm going to go with the Panthers in second place for my second place team.
Okay. All right, so then hit us with your number one.
I'm going to go with Atlanta in number one. I think that Bijan Robinson, and this is crazy because we talked about Bijan Robinson plenty in leading up to the draft and stuff like that. And while I think he's good, to be honest, I have no idea how good he really is. I didn't watch a ton of Texas games because, well, to be honest, Texas hasn't played in a ton of big games, you know.
Right.
And yeah, so anyway, I haven't watched a ton of Texas games, but if he's anything close to what he's hyped up to be, not only is he good, but he's going to make their picks from the last 2 years better. In Kyle Pitts. Like Kyle Pitts, I won't say he struggled, but like he didn't like revolutionize their offense like some people thought he would, but he was all they had. And then you have Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and they couldn't really get on the field at the same time, and like they didn't have a quarterback set up. Well, now Desmond Ritter's a year in, like you said, and hey, they're gonna find out a lot, but now they've got weapons. They've got weapons at every level of their offense now, and so I think it's gonna be enough in this division to get it done.
And more
I'm only going like 9 win, like
9 and
I
8.
think right. So I have 2
9
8-win
and
teams
8,
and a
8 and
9,
9,
right?
7 and 10,
so like,
6 and 11.
It's a free for all, like I said, kind of at the beginning.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. We're right on the same page. They're all within 2 or 3 wins of each other, just like last year. And you know, you mentioned you have 3 dynamic offensive weapons, all young, all expected to get better as the season goes and as their careers go. The more you have on offense, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, the more the defense has to respect each and every one of them. And if you have that many weapons, it's hard to have more than one guy pay attention to them. And unless you're playing a just super dynamic defensive team like the Miami Dolphins, who have Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard, I'm trying to hype myself up, Justin, for a month from now when we're talking AFC East.
Oh, God.
How are you going to cover these guys? Especially because Drake London and Kyle Pitts are big bodies.
Right.
So, yeah, I have the Falcons in second. You have them in first. So my first place team, obviously the New Orleans Saints, by default, since I already mentioned the other 3 teams. I am right there with you, Justin. I don't know that if a team that wins this division, I don't see one getting to more than 10 wins. So I would say I'd have the Saints winning this division at 9 and 8, maybe 10 and 7 if things break correctly. Maybe they take 3 out of 4 from the AFC South, you know, and they go 4 and 2 against their division. Right there, 7 wins. And for whatever team ends up in first, that's probably the roadmap for them. Go 3 and 1 against the AFC South, and then go 4 and 2 against your divisional opponents, and hope to win a few others. That'll get you to about 10 wins. That'll win that division. So I'm going with the Saints. Just I think Derek Carr is an upgrade. And I'm with you. I don't think he was the problem in Las Vegas. So I think he's an upgrade there. They performed pretty well last year, 7 and 10. I think they have done enough and have second-year group. I know there's a question mark with Kamara and what's going on in the backfield, but I've always undervalued the Saints.
I know. It's just funny that we sit here and you're the one who's picking
I'm the one hyping up the
and
Saints.
I'm like,
I don't know. And maybe that'll come back to bite me. Maybe I should undervalue them this
I
year,
am
but
excited.
I'm
I am excited to see which key weapon they give to the Eagles right before the season. So like that would be fantastic again. So,
Well, maybe it'll be Kamara, and then he'll be suspended for 8 weeks.
God.
So, I don't know. There's just something saying go with New Orleans, give them a shot here. Maybe Derek Carr has a nice year changing teams. I have them, like I said, 9-8, 10-7, 1/8 division. It could be by tiebreaker, but that's where I'm at. So I have Tampa Bay at 4. I have Carolina at 3, Atlanta at 2, and the Saints winning the division and finishing first in
Right.
the NFC South.
Yeah, and I had Tampa in last place, New Orleans in third place, Carolina in second place, and the Falcons winning the South. So,
Right.
man, your uncle's going to need to be on that one because I guarantee
We won't remember it.
Right. I mean, I may just because the Saints are just kind of like out there. But what I'll probably be more likely to remember is that I was down on the Saints, But, yeah, we'll see. It wouldn't surprise me if the Saints made a run. Like, if everything clicks there, I think they're the best team. Does that make sense? Like,
You think they have the highest ceiling?
oh, yeah. Yeah, this year, I feel like they have the highest ceiling. I just feel like, man, it's been a long time since everything's clicked in New Orleans, right? Like, even when Breeze was there, it's been a long time since everything clicked.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Come on.
Oh, my gosh. Nice run. But, yeah, so are we ready to move on to the AFC North?
Yeah, and when I get back there, when I'm done,
North.
hopefully scoring a touchdown.
AFC South, sorry.
AFC South. I'll go over my dad's picks, and actually my uncle sent us an email as well, so I think he is getting in on the West Division. So we'll go over his picks for the West Divisions, and then on our next show, I'll most likely have his South Division picks, and we'll be doing the NFC North in 2 weeks, the first Sunday night in June, which I believe is June 4th.
So I think since our last show, the schedules came out, correct?
Yeah, because our last show
we
was
knew opponents
May
already.
9th or
Opponents were
something?
set. Opponents were set before, but the schedule itself was new. So, that.
Yeah, we found out that both our teams are going to New England the first 2 weeks of the season. Or maybe it's the first 2 home games for New England.
Well, if I've got to go to New England, I want to go there in September, not in December.
No, I'm with
January.
you there 100%. Oh, actually, my uncle is watching, and he has his NFC South picks for us right now. So I will pull those up. All right, so my uncle, Rich, Patriots fan, has the Saints in first. That's like me. Panthers in second. That's you, right?
Yes.
Falcons in third, and Bucks in last. So actually, all 4 of us agree that we think Tampa Bay, led by either Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield, are going to finish in last place. So Saints first, Panthers second, Falcons third, Bucks last for my uncle. And he can feel free to send us his AFC South picks, and I'll read those as well for when we get to the AFC South. But we'll kick it off in the AFC South with my dad. My dad has, from first to last, he has Jacksonville, Tennessee, Indianapolis, and Houston. So he's going Jaguars, Titans, Colts, Texans. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the AFC South. I'm going to pull up my uncle's email, and I will read that when I get back. So, Justin, since I'm going to be on offense here, hopefully winding this clock a lot, why don't you get started in the AFC South with your number 14?
Okay, so AFC South. Oh man, where to begin here? I am gonna. Oh man. So I feel like there's 2 teams that could be like solid to good, and 2 teams that are bad. But you know what? As much as I hate to do it, I'm gonna go with the Colts in 4th place.
Okay, I can tell you this division is going to be wildly different again for me and you,
so,
which is good. We're usually in very much agreement. So
I think, and this isn't a statement about like where I think Anthony Richardson is going to end up. I have no idea, right? Like I have no idea. I get a strong like Jameis Winston vibe in the sense of like there could be a ton of
High
touchdowns,
risk, high reward.
and he could be eventually a fantastic like fantasy football quarterback, because when that pick is only -1 in your league, you know what I mean, or whatever. Like,
But big rushing touchdowns are lots of points.
Right, and he might end up with like 30 some touchdowns.
And 30-some interceptions.
Right, and that's why I get strong Jameis Winston vibes, right? Like, just the turnovers, he could never get rid of the turnovers, right? Ever. And the accuracy issues, Anthony Richardson, the potential's there for him to be
Right.
one of the
Ultimate
greats.
boom
but
bust
we'll,
right
we'll
there.
see.
So,
And
I don't disagree with you.
And I just feel like all the things that made Indianapolis good or on the brink of being a really good team over the last 5-6 years or whatever, and they felt like they were a piece or two away, those things started to fall apart last year, like in a hurry. And I don't know that they've done enough to address those needs. And so when you have a question mark at quarterback, which in reality we thought they had the answer a number of times at quarterback and they never did, I feel like we still don't have this year's answer at quarterback. I mean, Anthony Richardson, maybe it'll be him. Maybe he'll play lights out. But I think it's just as likely that we don't really know. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I feel like their support there isn't necessarily what it needs to be, considering the question mark at quarterback.
Perfectly reasonable, too. This division, I feel like it would shock me if a team other than who will be my number one, and I think probably your number one, doesn't win this division. But where teams 2, 3, and 4 fall, I think is as up in the air as the NFC South is.
I agree.
So, with that being said, I am going to go with not the Colts and not the team that's finished in last for many number of years now.
Oh.
I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, man.
In fourth
place. You did it. You did it. I'm okay with that. I'd be okay with that. I don't know what it is. It's irrational, but I just don't like it.
Well, they don't seem to want to give Malik Willis any time to prove that he can supplant Tannehill and be the guy, because they drafted Will Levis in the second round this year after taking Malik Willis in, the third round last year?
Yeah.
Because they barely used him last year when they needed him when Tannehill was hurt. They used Dobbs, right?
Right.
Now, Tannehill, I think, as well past his peak, is very injury prone now. He's actually been injured a lot throughout the course of his career. But I don't know what their identity is anymore. I mean, they have Derrick Henry, but I think he reached his peak. The Titans peaked at the right time, and they blew it. They had
should I house it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
They had Tannehill playing really good football. They had Derrick Henry being a beast. And they even were able to upset New England in the playoffs, right? If that was 3 years ago now. That was right before COVID. That was playoffs 2020. But then they choked in playoffs 21 and 22.
Kick this to end it.
No, that's fine. I think they blew it. That was their opportunity, and they couldn't get it done. They lost to the Ravens once, right?
Yep.
That was Lamar.
So
that was a
they
big
beat
deal
the Ravens
in the regular season, and then lost in the playoffs.
Right. Well, and they beat them the year before in the playoffs.
Oh, right.
And then Lamar beat them the next year.
Yeah. And there was a much ado about a whole bunch of stuff. But they had their chances in following the 20 and 21 seasons for sure. I think they started strong this past year, and then it fell apart. But I see it still falling apart. I don't think they're getting better. I think they lost some key pieces, and I think their other big, important players and superstars are past their prime or too injured or a combination of both. I don't see them being a good team anymore. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we see a coaching change mid-season, which sounds crazy.
Right.
After but we know that you've got about 18 months. That's whether it's a new coach or if it's a struggling coach. There are very few franchises that are willing to wait 2 or more years for you to turn it around or get things going. And it's a detriment to a lot of these teams.
Yep.
But it is what it is. Not very few teams act like the Steelers. There's not a ton of loyalty. It's a show me what you've done lately, kind of deal. And it hasn't been a lot for the Titans, just because I think they've failed in the playoffs too often, at least 2 years in a row, maybe even 3 years in a row. Though they upset New England.
Well, they traded their best player last draft.
Right, they got rid of A.J. Brown for whatever reason. I guess they thought Treylon Burks would step up and make them miss him, but that clearly didn't work.
Well, it's interesting because Vrabel didn't want that to happen.
No.
That was a ownership / like
that was a
front office
move, deal, yeah.
Right. They didn't want to pay him.
So
And I understand it's difficult to decide who you're going to pay and who you're not going to pay, but in the right system, A.J. Brown looked worth like every part of that.
Right. Well, and I feel like that was
Eagles.
them saying we're a run-first team. We can't afford a big-name receiver because our quarterback's not good enough to constantly get him the ball.
Fair enough. Yeah, I agree.
And, like, I'm not trying to hate on Ryan Tannehill. I didn't have a problem with him in Miami, but I
And
think everyone knows
I
what
think
he
they had a
is.
shot with him, but they didn't get it done. They
Right,
blew it.
exactly.
Right.
The window has shut. Their window ended, like, early last year. They at one time, weren't they, like, 6-2 or something?
Yeah.
And they won like one time the rest of the year, something like that, because they went 7-10. I think they were like 6-1 or 6-2 at one point.
I think the Eagles like smoked them like 2 games or 3 games into that slide, because like I was worried about them, and then it became like oh no, like they're not going to continue to lose this many games in a row kind of thing. Yet they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they went 7-10 last year. I think they're gonna win. Honestly, I could see them going like 4 or 5 wins.
Yeah, I could see the wheels coming off.
4-13, 5-12. I think Tennessee's in trouble. I don't think they're a very good team, and this one could come back and bite me big time, because the type of team they have though could also be good enough to be middle of the pack.
Oh yeah,
they could win 6, 7, 8 games.
So you're saying you're going out on that cold takes exposed here?
Yeah, right. This could be hey, if that gets us in front of it more people and I look like an idiot to Titans fans, that's fine. We can atone for that, Justin, by taking a trip to Nashville. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, we can make it happen.
So yeah, I think the Titans are the worst team in the AFC South. So I'm gonna go Tennessee in last place at, I'll say 5-12. That's a 2-win reduction. Honestly, I could see them at 4-13. My third place team is going to be the Houston Texans. So they were 3-13-1 last year. They have a new quarterback. I think something is bubbling there. Do I think that in 2 years they're going to win the division? No, I don't think that. But I know Ohio State quarterbacks struggle. I know C.J. Stroud, is another Buckeye quarterback. Feel like he has a very high ceiling, but also a very low floor. But I don't think it's as extreme as Anthony Richardson, which we'll get to momentarily. But I think C.J. Stroud could find some magic this year, but it doesn't take a lot to win more than 3 games. I do think DeMeco Ryans is the guy. I think that was an incredible hire for them.
Yeah, I'm okay with him leaving San Francisco, by the way.
Yeah, I feel like he could turn around this team back to the team that drafted him and he played so well for like 8 years or something like that. I know he finished his career in Philly, but he'll always be a Texan. DeMeco Ryans, it seems like a great coach, and I think
we had a guy win the Chuck Bednarik Award, by the way.
Oh, nice. Oh, he won the Bronco Nagurski too.
Same guy.
Oh, my center won the right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there he is in Remington. Best lineman. Oh wow, your end got the rotary too.
Yeah.
Hey, coach of the year.
Heck yeah.
All right, so I don't know. Something just tells me that the Texans could be a guy, or it could be a team that maybe surprises a little bit this year. Do I think they're like wild card good? No, I don't think they're that. We're playing Hawaii.
Number 2, Hawaii.
Amazing. BCS championship. Florida Atlantic versus Hawaii.
This is what made them burn all the computers.
Could you imagine?
All right.
So, yeah, in third place.
You ready for me to start?
Yeah, go ahead. In third place, I have the Houston Texans. So I had Tennessee in last at 4 or 5 wins. I'm going to put Houston, I think they double. I think they get to 6. I think they go 6-11. I think they look pretty good. Kind of similar to Bryce Young. I think C.J. Stroud has some amazing moments that people go, this guy's got it. He's going to be their quarterback for a decade. And I think there's some moments that people go, yeah, he's a rookie. But you'll take the good with the bad when you're developing a young quarterback, especially one that has the physical features and the athletic ability that Stroud has. As a Penn State fan, I don't want to see him do well. I want them to keep on the Ohio State tradition of not having good pro quarterbacks. Whatever Penn State can use on the recruiting trail against them, because it's not a lot. But I do think we could see D'Amico Ryans turn things around there, and the Texans have a better year than they've had in the last few. And I have them go in third place at 6-11. So, Justin, who's your third place team?
Third place, I'm going with the Texans as well. Everything you said there kind of applies to kind of like my thoughts on it. Yeah, I think it's one of those where I don't know. We could see it. We could see it happen, but I just I think Houston does have some of the pieces in place. I think it's just going to take some time because they were so bad, real bad. I think it's just going to take some time. We want to kick, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so you can start there. Yeah. So, well, who do you have in second then? I guess I assume you have my fourth place team in second.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the Titans, and I think there's a fall off. But I think it's going to be more of a gradual fall off. I agree with you that the problems they have could mount. I think they have enough pieces to kind of stick around there. So I think they may end up around 500, like 8-ish wins. But it wouldn't surprise me if it goes bad, if it gets real bad in a hurry. Does that make sense?
So here's one. So Old Takes Exposed. This would be the one. Mike Vrabel will be fired around Thanksgiving.
All right.
So I'll give or take a week. The week leading up to Thanksgiving or the week after. Like that mid-November to early December. Mike Vrabel's fired. That's my put it out there.
Okay.
So
do you
feel
like this is not an AFC South specific question, but do you feel as though Mike Vrabel will be the first coach fired this next cycle?
Ooh boy. Man, will he be the first? So I'm trying to think back to the West. I don't see Shanahan getting fired. I don't think I see McVay getting fired. I don't see Carroll getting fired. They just got rid of Kingsbury, so I don't think the Cardinals are going to fire someone in mid-season. We've seen them fire them after the full year.
They could fire someone after the year if it goes poorly, but not.
Reed's not getting fired. Chargers? Raiders? Broncos are not either. So I guess it depends on the start of the Chargers and Raiders, and if you think either of them would move on. Like, does McDaniels get the axe at halfway? I mean, it's the Raiders, so nothing would surprise me. But I also think the Raiders are. I think the Raiders are better than the Titans. So I don't think the Raiders are going to have done less than the Titans at that point. So I'll say, based on the West, I would still go with Vrabel. Trying to think of the other divisions, I don't see it happening in Chicago, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota. I don't know. They went 13-4 last year, and I feel like it would be tough to jump on, even though we know that they're not very good. I don't.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, how did that happen?
Yeah, they have a really good offense.
I don't see
and I'm
it
not saying that
happening.
because they just marched down the field against
Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincinnati. I don't know. Cleveland, maybe. And the East, I don't see it happening in Miami, New England, Buffalo. Maybe the Jets. If the Jets, with all this buildup, don't look good, could Saleh get the axe? Maybe. I don't want to go through all and waste my time on that, but I'll say yes. I think Vrabel's the first coach fired, and I think it happens around Thanksgiving, like mid-November to early December. Yeah.
So does that bring me to my second place team then, I guess?
So you had...
Oh, no. I did my second place was the Titans.
Yeah, so it's my second place team. So my second place team is the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay.
And this is kind of sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here because, I was on the draft show saying that I was not a fan of Anthony Richardson as a pro prospect. But to me, that's more long-term. I think he could have a big impact in year one based on his style and his abilities.
Yeah.
Almost similar or akin to someone like Robert Griffin.
Okay, yeah.
Or even like when Lamar Jackson came in the first year.
Yeah.
That defenses don't exactly know how his game's going to transition to the NFL. And it's going to take a year and an offseason for teams to figure it out. So I think in the long run, I don't think he'll be a great pro. But I think in the short term, I think he could have success this year. And your boy Shane Steichen is the guy there.
Yeah,
and I think he could.
right.
I think he could really help that transition for Richardson. And I think it was an anomaly last year for Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to have a much better year this year than last year. I think having Richardson opens the game up for Jonathan Taylor.
Yes.
And I think they have some young guys at receiver that are going to be pretty good. So I think the Colts, and it could be, to use the term again, fool's gold. Like, maybe they have a great year this year and they win, like I'm saying, like 8-9 games or something like that. I don't think it's going to be sustainable. I think teams will be able to figure Richardson out. But I think for this year, I wouldn't be shocked to see Indianapolis be maybe a surprise number 2 and pushing towards a wild card. I don't think I'm going to pick them as a wild card team, but I think I am going to put them at 9-8 this season.
Yeah, I you know what? And it would be exciting, right?
It would be
exciting for them
having
to do
young rookie quarterbacks look good, which we
it's-
all thought
is
that the
incredible.
Panthers, the Texans, for better or worse, and now the Colts all could possibly double their win totals from last year.
Right.
Now some of that only is going to be 6 wins,
Well,
but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and my takes aside, it's more fun when you have a division where all the teams are good as opposed to a division where all the teams are bad.
Right.
It's just,
No, absolutely.
it's just not enjoyable.
And I don't want to take my negatives about C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
Have nothing to do with my rooting interests. I
Right.
want them to be good. Like you said, young quarterbacks are good for everyone. It
Yes.
makes the league exciting.
Yep.
So I want them to all come in and be good because it also would make teams that have been irrelevant now for a handful of years be not so irrelevant anymore. So I'm cheering for all of them to do well. I honestly, I'll say it now. I think Anthony Richardson could win Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Your AFC South is full of hot takes, man.
Hey, there you go. That's what everyone's. It took 381 episodes for maybe some of that to come out, but here we are. So I'm going to have the Colts 9-8 pushing for a wild card. I think Anthony Richardson wins AFC Rookie of the Year.
Wow. That's
So,
awesome.
You did your number 2 right. So we're on my number
Yeah,
1,
and
which is also your number
It's
1.
going to match my number 1.
And it's everyone's number 1 because I would be shocked if my uncle chimes in and doesn't pick Jacksonville because my dad picked Jacksonville and I think the Jaguars earned it last year.
Yes.
They came out of the gate a little sluggish,
Dougie P, baby.
but yeah, I mean we've been huge fans of Doug Peterson. I definitely think he got a bit of a raw deal in Philadelphia.
Oh,
but,
he absolutely did.
things worked out in his favor. He got Jacksonville righted after the first 5-6 weeks last year. Had them playing really well. Rebounded nicely in the second half of that division game that the Chargers. Still can't believe that they lost that game.
Right.
But
Think about-
that's what great coaches do, and that's what great quarterbacks do, and that's what Trevor Lawrence is gradually developing into. You and I have both been notoriously down on him in his final years at Clemson and his first couple years in the NFL, especially draft night. We said we weren't sold on him.
Right, we weren't sold on the
his first
generational
20 games. I
talent
think
part.
we looked right.
Yes. But the way he stepped up big when the team really didn't have much else to step up. Like, he really carried that team last year. And that playoff game where he looked horrendous.
The first half.
In the first
Just
half.
terrible.
And then
Didn't give up.
insane in the
Brought
second
him
half.
back.
Yeah, that was
Kudos
awesome.
to him.
Yeah,
And
good
we've
for him.
already said multiple times in the show, it's okay that we're wrong. And maybe we won't be. Maybe he won't be good this year. But I feel like now the momentum has shifted. The tides have changed. Trevor Lawrence is looking more and more like that can't-miss prospect that most people thought he was as a freshman, sophomore, junior in college. He had a tough start. Rookie year wasn't great. Beginning of last year and other moments, not the best, but I think he could take another step this year, and I think it may mean that Jacksonville could have a stranglehold in that division, depending on the way these other young quarterbacks shape up. You have a rookie in C.J. Stroud in Houston, you have a rookie in Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis, and then you have Ryan Tannehill. One of these things is not like the others. It's
Right.
not a young, dynamic quarterback. It's an old seasoned veteran that I don't think has it anymore. And that's why I had Tennessee in last place. a huge upside on those other three guys. Trevor Lawrence is at the top. He's the best of the group right now. And we love Doug Peterson. I think he's doing a great job. That defense can be very, very good. And they added Calvin Ridley. I know he hasn't played in a while, but he seems to have accepted what he did, despite there's many people saying stupid, absolutely awful, trash NFL and gambling takes. Like, absolutely brutal.
No way.
Terrible.
They absolutely should be allowed to. I don't...
Just god awful. And as usual, Ross Tucker had amazing takes on all of it that I 100% agree with. So, but Calvin Ridley, to his credit, he took responsibility for his actions, and he's supposed to be in great shape after missing the last year plus, because he also missed 2 years ago most of the year. He needed a mental health break, but he has reinvigorated himself. He's gotten himself sorted out in every health capacity you can imagine, so he says.
Right, the article he wrote
was
that
great.
Players Tribune? Or
Yeah,
the
it was
Athletic?
fantastic.
Yeah, like it was. I said to you, I think at the time, it was everything I wanted to hear. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
it was the look. This is what led me to my bad choices that I made, and I'm taking responsibility for, and I am working to move past. Like, because all those things are legit. Like, he was in a bad spot. Like, and hey, you got to get right. Like, that's bigger than football. It's bigger than all that stuff.
Right.
He made a bad decision, and he, like you said,
he owned up to it.
He owned it, and is taking the consequences, as hard as that is, and the public embarrassment and all of that other stuff. And then he's just... Sorry, I did the punt return here.
That's all right.
Not very well. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that was
I
huge
did the
for
punt
me.
return in part because I didn't believe they were punting from like our 43-yard line or whatever. Yeah, so
But adding him to Trevor Lawrence, like, that's just another weapon for him. And,
Yeah.
I hate that he chose number 0, but hey, it's a fresh start, fresh city, fresh year for him. Best of luck to him. I hope he has a great year. I could see the Jaguars being a contender. Are they going to be there to compete with the likes of Cincinnati, Kansas City, Buffalo?
I don't know. Like, I don't know that they're that good.
They're not
yet.
a pushover.
However, like we just mentioned with the young dynamic quarterbacks, wouldn't it be fun if at the end of the season we're like, all right, like, are they busting into this group?
Are they up there now?
Like, are they? Because, like, I know it's unlikely that it just happens like this because it's football. Crazy stuff happens. But, like, imagine we already look at this group of Cincinnati, Buffalo, the Chiefs, like in the AFC. Imagine if you're like, all right, and I know you hate this, but, like, imagine if you're like, oh, man, like, what are the Jets doing? Or what are the Dolphins doing? And what are the Jags doing? Like, do they climb in? And does this not become a 3-team race, but like a 4, 5, 6-team race? Like, that's incredible. As just a fan who wants to watch exciting games. Like, and we've talked about this before. Like, football doesn't. We'll watch the crappy Thursday night games. Like, we'll watch that.
We'll watch anything if it's NFL.
But we also, like, there's nothing that compares to, like, those big games.
Those big...
And the games that are competitive, like, you and I, like, we get drawn into competitive things, whatever they are, for the most part. And if you're going to have more competitive games for longer and meaningful games longer, like, it's all really
I
good
saw
for
it was circulating
the brand,
again,
right?
Just recently on social media, the most watched programs of 2022, and I think it was like 42 out of 50 were NFL and college football games, and most of them were NFL. And I think they had like 8 of the top 10 and like 12 of the top 15. It was ridiculous what the NFL and football in general has on American viewership. Yeah. And they're just getting stronger. Like, they're not fading. And because I know it was a decade or so ago, we had an entire show on Mark Cuban's comments about, pigs get slaughtered or whatever he said.
Right.
And I'm still waiting for that to happen. And I feel like every year something happens that people are like, too much, it's overexposure, they're getting greedy, and it goes the opposite way.
Right.
It goes the opposite way. Which I like so much because most of those people I don't like that say those things.
Okay, so here we go. Then I've got one for you.
Okay, hit me. So we both think Jacksonville's going to win that division. I think they're going to go. I'm going to say 11-6.
And this was a topic that, I think they're right there too. I think they're right there too. This is a topic where I don't want it to come across as like, I can't believe they're doing this. But like, I don't like it. I understand why, as a business, they're going to test it out.
Are you talking about the
I'm
back-to-back
talking about
Thursdays or Flex Thursdays?
Well, no, I'm talking about the playoff game being on
on Peacock?
On Peacock only.
So there's
I don't want it to be like me bashing it. Does that make sense? Like, it's just like I don't like it. I understand why they might want to see what they've got here. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, see,
but like the playoffs seem like a weird time to do that to me. Like, I don't know.
So I fall into the camp where I don't care because I have Peacock.
I knew.
So,
right.
Like,
and
it mattered. Like when that came out, I was like, okay. Like I don't
crisis
care.
averted.
Right, like that. Whatever. I can't like. And there's no streaming company out there that I feel like they would put it on that I don't have. Could they go to YouTube because now that's where that's where Sunday Ticket is. I'm gonna take a time out here.
That's fine.
I can't decide if I want to go for this or not. I'm on there 46.
We get the ball to start the second half.
It's 4th and 6 though. So should I punt?
It's up to you, man.
Man,
I'd say go for it.
I can't quarterback sneak.
Go for it.
I need a good play. All right, give it a try. So that's why it's hard for me to be indifferent on this or give a proper opinion because I have Peacock, so I don't have any. There's no, dude, interference. How's that not interference? He's running into him. That didn't work at all. It did come as a shock to me, for sure, that they're putting a playoff game on a streaming-only platform. However, it is probably the safest streaming platform because I feel like more people have Peacock because they're still Comcast Xfinity subscribers.
Right.
And maybe there's a bunch that don't even know they get that because they're...
No, 100%.
Right,
100%.
and that's on Comcast, Xfinity, NBC, Universal, and the NFL to make people realize, hey, if you're a Comcast subscriber, you have this. I don't think they need to be on like the paid tier, because I think there's a free tier, there's like a $5 tier, and there's like a $10 or $12 tier. But also, if you don't, it's $5. If you want to watch that game, you can subscribe for 1 month for $5. That is 3 times as cheaper than a movie ticket. So don't complain to me about having to subscribe to Peacock for 1 month.
And it's also, I feel like there would be a different argument, and they've had this at times, when, like, because for the longest time, all of the games were on, well, basically, free TV. Does that make sense? Like, they were on channels that everyone got for, quote-unquote, free, right? But that's not the case anymore.
Right.
Right? Like, there are games every single week.
So I see a lot of people are
Thursday night games on Amazon Prime.
Right.
Some games on NFL Network. Oh, I don't know why I'm doing this return. Sorry.
No, that's good. So I may have already done this. Can you? Yeah, okay, you pause. I'm just going to play this. I'm going to pop my headphones on real fast. Make sure that this is piped. It may have already been piped through. But this is actually going to be, if I can, yeah, there we go. So I pulled up Ross Tucker's page because I think he nails this. So this is his thoughts on the NFL moving a playoff game to Peacock. So let's see if this will play for everyone.
So I see a lot of people are up in arms about this. They're outraged by this. I can't do it. I mean, 2 huge companies find a way to make money, like film at 11, right? I mean, this is the way the world works. We know things are going towards streaming. Comcast clearly realizes they can get a lot of people to sign up for Peacock, and they can even just increase the branding and awareness of Peacock if they pay $110 million for 1 game, and the NFL realizes we can get $110 million for 1 game. I mean, this is America. This is how it works. Now, what's cool about it, we have the choice. You have the choice. It's up to you whether you subscribe to Peacock for one playoff game. So rather than complaining about it, just realize this is the way the world works, and you have the power to. So I see a lot of people on.
Basically, he's saying, this is America, this is corporate America, this is free market America. We can decide as a people, are we going to allow this? And I'm going to say 100% yes. This is not going to be a failure. Like, this is going to happen. It's going to force people to subscribe, and I know this is a tangent that we don't need to get off on, but people are not going to, they're going to scoff, by and large, other than people who get up on a soapbox and on their high horse to complain about greedy corporate America. Those are few and far between, because in the end, cold-blooded Americans are going to pay $5 to watch a football game. I guarantee you. This is not going to be a failure for Comcast, Xfinity, NBC Universal, whatever, Alphabet Soup, or for the NFL.
I think the bigger thing is going to be, I don't know, like you said, I don't know how many people are going to be able to find it. Especially if it's the first time. Yeah. If it's the first time they're watching a game or anything, more likely, on that platform, I think that's going to be the bigger issue. I also, and again, separate from those points, because I agree. Like, kind of, what did you expect to happen? You know, like, this is the way it's moving. Every Thursday night game's on Amazon Prime. You know, like.
Right, and that's a relatively new thing. Last year was the first year.
Right.
They're expanding it in ways this year.
Right, and so I just feel like I do understand the, like, especially if I'm in an area where Comcast is not the main provider. I don't know how that works. Like that, like, I obviously understand you can still get Peacock, but like, just in terms of, like, for us, it's real easy. Like, it's super easy. I can hold the button on my remote and I can say, like, for me,
open Peacock.
Like, right, watch Parks and Rec, and when it comes up, it's like, watch on Peacock. Yep.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yes, thank you.
Right, like, it's all I have to do. Like, I don't know, and I mean that truly from the I don't know how that works if you're outside of that. Okay, but I know it has to work.
And this is what I was thinking, and I'm sure that there would be a monopoly thing on it, but you know, if it cost $100 a month to subscribe to Peacock, that's a different story.
Right.
But $5?
Right.
You're telling me you wouldn't pay $5? Well, I'm telling you, if I didn't have Peacock, I would 100% be subscribing to watch that game.
The first week in September, I always up to the extra sports package on my cable because I want Red Zone, and then as soon as the season's over, I take the extra sports. I already get a bunch of sports, but that extra one, that's the extra, $10 a month for Red Zone, and the other channels, but it's for Red Zone.
It's for Red Zone and everything. They throw in like golf or something like that.
Right. I get a bunch of other channels, and then I always forget by the end of the season. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to lose all these sports channels when I turn it off, and I don't.
The only thing that matters is Red Zone.
The only one that I watch that I then lose is the Red Zone channel, which it's not on during that time, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, like, yes, I feel there's an adjustment. I do understand, and again, like, if you're in some area that does not have Comcast and Peacock is just new and all that stuff, and like your team makes the playoffs, and you're just like, what the heck? Like, we aren't the ESPN game, we aren't the NBC game, we're the Peacock game.
Oh, like, they already said that would be the worst matchup. Well, like the people writing about, I shouldn't say the NFL said that, but people writing about this are saying this will be the worst matchup.
They say that, but like, I don't know.
There's no way they would put, like, if for some reason the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, if they would play, there's no way would be that game.
I know that, but like, just hear me out. Like, if you're like, all right, we're going to put...
Do you think they'd put, like, a big market team on there?
If they put them on there, and then, like... And I know it would be hard, and I don't know how the selection stuff works for that. But, like, if like, the Cowboys were on there, right? Like, people are... Like, you can set your numbers. Like, I know Ross is saying, like, we can decide. If the Cowboys are on there, or the Niners are on there, or the Chiefs are on there, or, like, people are going to tune in. Now, I say that makes it sound bad. I'm like, if the Lions are on there, are people going to tune in? I don't know.
I think Dallas would be a funky one because they already got the entire Philadelphia market. The people who want to hate watch the Cowboys are already Comcast
You're right.
subscribers.
Right, exactly. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, I agree with you. I think you're going to get, like...
You're going to get, like, Jacksonville, Los Angeles.
Right.
Like,
Jacksonville,
that's the game. That's,
right.
That's
Right.
his Peacock.
Right.
And guess what? It was a fantastic game last year.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
it wasn't in the first half, but it turned out into a fantastic game in the second half. The only other thing I want to say about this is people are starting to get up in arms about the way the NFL is broadcast. Look, you can find the stations still free over the air if you want to, if you do that thing. That's fine. Easily on cable packages. Subscriptions to these other streaming services, I know it adds up, and I know the family situations are all different, but you love... People watching the show, listening to the show, love football. You're going to pay for it. You're going to find it. I don't see that there's anyone that's going to be like, I'm not paying $5 to watch that game. But also, and this... I don't want to call it Mark Cuban because he has nothing to do with this conversation, but he was the guy who started the conversation about the NFL being overexposed, so I always think about him in that regard. I think he'd be a fantastic baseball owner, and I don't hate Mark Cuban, but I don't like his takes on the NFL. But I laugh at people who are huge NBA fans and then talking about NFL broadcasts. Do you understand the NBA playoff broadcasts are awful? Like, how they fix their scheduling is garbage. And guess what? They put games on streaming services that people don't have.
Right.
People don't have them. Or you have marquee games, and the NHL did this too, starting at 10 o'clock.
Right. Right.
Like, if you want to grow your brand, make sure the East Coast can watch your game. Why would you start a playoff game at 10 o'clock? It makes no sense. The NBA and NHL are... Well, and honestly, MLB isn't much better.
No.
They're playing playoff games in the middle of the day of the work week.
Right.
Like,
no, MLB, in my opinion, is worse.
They're
In
all
my
three of
opinion,
them are.
MLB is
In
the worst.
terms of against the NFL, and I'm not sure any of the three leagues win at any argument against the NFL in anything.
Yeah, it's just
Like, the NFL's getting better at the trade deadline. One of the things that the other three leagues always did better. You know, so maybe that's it. Is that your thing? NFL trade deadline is kind of boring? Okay. Their free agency is better. Their scheduling release is better. Their draft is better. There might be people that think that the draft process, the lottery, is exciting. MLB draft is maddening. Like, that stuff is, like, determined from, like, 2 years ago. Like, I don't even completely understand the way the MLB draft works. It's just so convoluted.
That's why we always say, like, being an MLB GM is, like, the hardest. Even though there's no, like, it's the hardest in the sport where there's no salary cap. Think about that. Like,
right, yeah.
And I don't know that it actually is the hardest. But, like, in terms of just the sheer number of people you are responsible for because of the farm systems, and the years of service stuff and, like, all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's god-awful. But the NFL is king. The NFL is king at 98.5% of everything they do. I'm not sure you could pick out too many things that any of the other four pro Americans major sports do better.
In an example of, I don't like the Peacock thing, but I understand it, and, like, I don't, like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't like it because I'm resistant to change, right?
See, I am too, unless it comes with football and technology.
Yeah.
Like, it's
However,
an intersection of things that I love.
I look at this as something I don't like from the NFL, but, like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Like, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. I don't like it, but whatever. It's not that big of a deal to me.
So I want to chime in here.
Opposed to, I absolutely despise and hate the idea that was started really popping around last year of them moving the championship games to neutral sites.
I agree. I'm
because
anti that.
Whereas this I see as a huge chance. I
don't like that.
Right.
I'm with you on that.
This, like, that doesn't, like, whatever channel the game is on does not affect the game at all. Not one.
But the location can.
The location can.
Yeah,
and
I don't
hate
want that. I don't want that creeping in there. Unfortunately, I think it'll pop up. I don't know that it's going to be passed, or at least passed soon, but it'll pop up in discussions over the next few years. So my uncle chimed in with his AFC South picks, and he says he has the same as my dad, his brother, Jags, Titans, Colts, Texans. So that's what you had, right? Or no, you had Colts last. You had Colts last, right?
Yeah.
So my dad and uncle have Jags 1, Titans 2, Colts 3, Texans 4. You had Jags 1, Titans 2, Texans 3, Colts 4. I had Jags 1, Colts 2, Texans 3, Titans 4. That was the AFC South.
Our stud defenseman there, defensive lineman, came up with 2 sacks in that series.
All
So.
right. I'm going to go up and play this offensive series. When I'm done with this series, I'm going to come back and read my uncle's West picks.
Okay. But yeah, so it should be interesting as we get closer. To kind of recap here, like I think that both of these divisions are really interesting in terms of there's a lot of question marks for a lot of the teams. I do think that we have in the AFC North, you and I agreed that we do have, and others agreed that there's a clear number one, and I think it's Jacksonville's to lose. Like, it would be disappointing for Jacksonville if they didn't win the division.
Yeah, I would be shocked if they didn't, even though
Think about that. Think about where we are.
Right.
And part of that is because of what the division has done. But, like, we are a year removed from them being one of the worst teams in football and having just an absolute, like arguably the worst coaching situation ever in the NFL.
Possibly.
Like,
because even Rich Kotite got multiple years.
Right. And didn't kick players.
Multiple teams, actually.
Right. Yeah. He got rehired.
Yeah.
That's why, like, when people, like, joke about the Eagles, I'm like, because I believe he was with the Jets after, right? He was Eagles first.
So,
I think he was Jets after that.
Did
I'm like,
we not see
yes,
him in Philadelphia?
Imagine watching Rich Kotite in Philadelphia and then being like, yep, let's hire him. And I know you love that
like
it's
an
the Jets.
accountant and a lawyer. Like,
yeah.
He just didn't even look
I did read a thing one time that was like, it was somebody like, and I think it was a former player or someone else from the league, and they said they felt bad because, like, they're like, it wasn't like his fault. Like, he just, like, he was kind of put in a position of like, what did you expect to happen?
Yeah. So it would. So we went over the West 2 weeks ago, and we kind of said, honestly, I guess the Chiefs would be. It would be a little surprising if the Chiefs didn't win the West. I think.
Yeah. I mean, like,
I don't know that the NFC though. I could see, and maybe I don't want to say any because I don't think the Arizona Cardinals are going to be very good.
I don't think so.
But if any of the other 3 won that division, I wouldn't be super shocked.
Right.
But if the Chiefs didn't win their division or the Jags didn't win their division, I would be a little bit shocked. But more so if the Jags didn't, because it would be a little surprising maybe if the Chargers or Broncos and definitely the Raiders upended the Chiefs. I would be even more surprised if one of the Colts, Texans, or Titans beat the Jaguars. So
I agree.
Yeah, so that and when we said the NFC South is really roll dice. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you roll a die with all 14 logos, and whichever one comes up the most in 100 tries, there you go.
I do agree with the assessment, I guess. The Saints will determine that division. I just think it's going to come down negatively on them. Does that make sense? Like, I think it's theirs to lose, and I think they lose.
Sure. That's fine, yeah. So in 2 weeks, so we don't have a show next week, or we're going to be off. I'm going for this, right?
Yeah, do it, dude.
Should I?
Yeah. I mean, we're in field goal range, though, aren't we?
Right. I'm going to run the clock down first.
Let it run down, and then take a timeout and figure out what you want to do.
So we're off next week, Memorial Day weekend. A lot going on. I'm broadcasting a game Friday night. I'm doing the Tri-County All-Star game at Manheim Central. 4 Bulldogs were picked for the game. I think they're all playing in it.
Dude, I had a number of people come up and ask me about that from you. They were like, oh my gosh, like, and I'm like, yeah. Like,
yeah, so Fox 43 is streaming the game. It's not broadcast on Fox 43.
You just won the national championship there.
Yeah, we did. I know we're talking about NFL preseason in May, and we just won the national championship. So this just goes to prove, Justin, that new head coach hires in college football need at least 4 years.
Yeah. Look at those awards we racked up. Look at those,
So we will talk part 3 of our NFL preview in 2 weeks. And it will be on the North divisions, which should be fun. It will be NFC North and AFC North. Lots to talk about there. Lots of good teams. A lot of great storylines. Here we go. Celebrate. We are the champions, baby. 4 years BCS champs.
Coach J-Raff off. Oh, there's no celebration? I thought there was a celebration.
Should have been.
Boo. All right, well, let's wrap this up.
Maybe the new version of the game.
Which is coming up in about a year.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it sounds like all 130-plus teams are going to be in it.
Right.
They have the option of the players
have the option.
Which, and someone was like, who would not sign up for that?
Right.
You're getting money to be in a video game? That's
Right.
what every college kid wanted when they were playing.
Right.
So I can't, I don't.
Just from a sheer number, I feel like there has to be some that don't.
Right.
But,
And maybe it's just because it slipped through the cracks or something.
Right,
But I don't
right.
think anyone's going to be like, I'm opting out.
Right.
Like,
right.
no. So that'll be fun. We'll that's a year from now though, so
Yeah.
we can do another dynasty year here in year 5. Do we stay in Florida Atlantic?
We're
Do we go
going to see
else?
our options
Yeah,
now.
we want that Penn State job.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Oh man, how cool would that be after two years of playing the game in real time? Well,
Right.
I mean a year really, but here we are. So we'll see what happens. We're going to talk AFC North, NFC North in 2 weeks, June 4th. That's our next show, episode 382, as we continue our NFL preview. It's been a lot of fun. I want to wrap up with my uncle's email about his West picks. So he says, quote, my Uncle Rich, and so it starts with your West picks and picking on my Patriots. I don't even remember. I mean, we take digs at New England all the time, so it makes sense.
Right.
So first, my West
sounds
picks.
on sounds
Sounds like us. NFC West for Uncle Rich. He picked the Rams.
Whoa.
Should be better than last year. Seems like for a lot of teams, one bad year, then one good year. So he's back on the Rams. He has the 49ers next. He said, who will be at quarterback? The rookie that they had no faith in last year, which I think he means Trey Lance.
Right.
Or does he mean Brock? I don't think he means Brock Purdy.
No, I think he means Trey Lance.
The rookie in his the big time rookie that was in his second year
Right.
got injured. I don't know. He says he likes Purdy, but will he be available? That's the big question. Seahawks, can Geno Smith do it again? We had that same discussion. And the Cardinals, what a mess. Enough said. Exactly. So he has flip-flops with us with actually, I think we had the Rams in third. So
Yeah.
he has the Rams up in first. We both had the 49ers, but we still thought the Seahawks would be pretty good this year. In the AFC West, he says Chiefs until Mahomes proves to be human. Chargers have got to be better. Don't let the coach lose their games. We talked about that with the Chargers. The Raiders he has next.
Okay.
A healthy Jimmy G would help, and he has faith in Josh McDaniels. The exact opposite of everything we've said about the Raiders there. The Broncos, and he says, why does everyone love the Broncos? I have him in second. I'm pretty sure I had him in second in the division.
Because I believe in Sean Payton more than I believe in Josh McDaniels.
Is Payton that great a coach? But he is better than last year's coach. So he gives Payton the benefit of the doubt there.
Patriots West out in Oakland.
Right.
Well, no, not Oakland.
So
in
he
Las
has
Vegas.
a love affair with
Yeah.
Jimmy G and Josh McDaniels. We're not buying into that. We had the Raiders in last. I had the Broncos in second. I think you had the Chargers in second.
I think I did.
I think, yes. So we'll see. So my uncle goes Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos 1-4. Now he says, now what about that Patriots in the trash? Like that, you're just gonna get that from us. It's just we're certified Patriot haters. You know that. Here is going to invite you two to come up and honor the greatest quarterback to ever play when he returns for our first game of the year. Yes, Tom Brady, the GOAT, and it will even be played against Justin's Eagles. The only ticket more expensive at Gillette Stadium is the ticket for Taylor Swift this weekend. And that's not a lie or an exaggeration. I'm sure it was. That's it for now. I'll be listening to your show. Probably your only Pats fan. That's my Uncle Rich. Pats fan. You know it. We know it. We love it. Great conversation as always. Thank you for the email. Appreciate you always listening to the show. Yeah, Taylor Swift was in Philly and then Boston, I think, in back-to-back weekends. Yeah. Multiple sellouts. Just, like, absurd. Absurd what she's been able to pull.
Yeah.
But pretty fun, pretty cool. I enjoy that. I wouldn't necessarily. I'm not a Swiftie by any. You know,
but you're not like anti.
Right? No, like her songs come on, I listen to them. Right. I have a bunch of her albums. I would never pay money to go see her in concert. Well, because that's a lie. I already paid money to see her in concert because she opened for Rascal Flatts when I saw Rascal Flatts in concert in Indiana in 2008. Which is just blows my mind that Taylor Swift was opening for Rascal Flatts. Because at the time, 2008, Taylor Swift wasn't this phenomenon. She was just bursting onto the scene. Because in 2007, or around then, maybe it was late 06, she released Teardrops on My Guitar. And Kelly and I laughed as we drove around Indiana because every time we got into the car, that song was on. like clockwork, no matter what. And we could be getting in the car and getting back in the car 15 minutes later, and it would be on one of the 2 stations we listened to.
And here
every
she is.
time. And here she is, 15 years later, and she's the biggest name in entertainment, biggest celebrity on the planet. And I mean, this stuff with her concert is just nutso. Ross Tucker took his family to see.
Yeah, I saw that. That was really cool.
I have nothing against Taylor Swift whatsoever. And it is cool that you can say that she spent a lot of her time in the Wyomissing area.
Yeah.
I mean, her Christmas song was about the first house that I think the farm that she grew up in. So, really cool. So, Uncle Rich, you have to let me know. Did you go to that Taylor Swift concert? I want to say no, but I wouldn't put it past.
Go.
Honestly, his granddaughter went to see her a couple times though. So. That was a pretty cool experience. I mean, I would have certainly taken the girls if someone could find tickets at a reasonable price. But spoiler, that wasn't happening. So yeah, great show. I think, Justin. We finished a undefeated season.
So can you imagine a Hawaii FAU national championship game that ends 14-7?
No, because if Hawaii's in it, you're scoring 74 points.
Well, they were the second-ranked offense that we held.
Well, your defense held them to 7 points, and I did what I do best, and I grind.
4-minute quarters will do wonders.
I grind it down, and here we are. So thanks for everyone that stuck it out with us. We're not going to be playing any more of the college football game on the air. I mean, maybe next time we could go through our coaching decisions as we talk about the AFC, NFC North, but it won't take up a bulk of the show. We'll do that while we discuss the North, but we can sim through the end of this and see if we're staying at FAU for a 5th year or moving on to a bigger program. I don't know if one's going to pull us away except Penn State.
Yeah,
because I'm kind of grown an affinity to playing as FAU, and the dream job is Penn State. I don't want to go to a mid-tier Power 5 team. No. And I think weren't we in the running for like the USC job or Texas or Oklahoma? So there was a big team last year, and we were like, no.
Right.
Hey, it's a good thing we said no because we just went 12 or 13-0.
13.
So yeah, awesome. But that's it from us here. Justin, you have any shout-outs or anything? No. Anything to say before we get out of here?
I don't think so.
I feel like there were a bunch of birthdays recently. Last week, Nick celebrated, so happy belated to Nick. I feel like I messaged a bunch of people this last week, and I can't remember. Happy belated Mother's Day. We weren't on the air last week to celebrate with our moms and our wives. They got to do so by being at home with 2 little girls with strep throat. So I didn't even get to see my mom, unfortunately, but did get to hang out with Kelly, and that was great. And video chatted with her mom and my mom. So we hope everyone had a great Mother's Day, and we hope everyone has a great Memorial Day next weekend. Yes. I hope it's great weather. I hope everyone has a lot of fun and takes a moment to remember what the day is all about, and then just enjoy. Just have fun with friends and family and the unofficial kickoff of summer as we look forward to football, because that's what summer is all about, football. So
leading up to July, the best month of the year.
Hey, you know what starts tomorrow? West Football Throw-Arounds. So, hey, always Monday before Memorial Day, Fernzer got the kids out there. Next Monday or tomorrow, next Tuesday, and then usually that first Monday in June is when I join. So it's here. It's football season. Like, that's why we're doing our preview. This is all about football. So, all right, that wraps us up here. What did I say? 381.
Yes.
Yeah. So, the end of episode 381. For Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with part 3 of our 2023 NFL preview. Talk to you all again real soon.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop. Woo-hoo! You can watch each weekly episode live on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also rate and review us on many of these platforms as well. We'd love to hear from you. Send your emails to the Mays Sandwich Shop inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is a part of the JMNJR Radio Network, home to other productions such as the Bulldog Hour, Tangents with Friends, and Nat Chats with Dad. Until next time.